In this video, I'll show how I repaired some leaks in the top tank of my Helicycle helicopter. When I bought this helicopter, I noticed it had these decals stating 19 gallons max. This is a few gallons less than the total capacity of the tanks. I thought this limitation might be due to gross weight, but when I filled the tanks past 19 gallons, I noticed some fuel seeping out in a couple spots on the top tank. The leaks were behind these tubes below the support bolts. I briefly considered removing and replacing this tank, but removing this tank is a very big job. You basically have to take the whole helicopter apart. So I decided to repair the tank instead. The cracked areas were impossible to get to from the outside. I began by making paper patterns of the nut plate flange and cover. The nut plate flange is a thin aluminum flange that goes on the inside of the tank to which the nut plates are attached. I used number 6 nut plates. I cut the hole in the top of the tank with a saber saw. Before cutting, I drained the fuel and plugged the 2 tank outlets. I accessed these through the top fill port. After cutting the access hole, I reached inside and used a hot iron to weld the cracks. There are many videos on YouTube on plastic welding, and even though this was my first time doing it, I had good results. After welding the 3 cracks, I filled the tank past the repaired crack areas to check the soundness of my repairs and found that the tank no longer leaked. I then attached the nut plate flange to the inside of the tank using 4 3/32 flathead blind rivets. Next, I attached the aluminum cover in place using Flex Epox as a sealer. On past projects involving the sealing of fittings on these tanks, I found that sheet gasket did not work and Hylamar Blue also did not work. I had very good success with Flex Epox, a 2-part epoxy adhesive. This adhesive seems to be very fuel resistant. I've had a sample submerged in diesel fuel for a few weeks without any negative effects. As you can see, there's some fuel in the tank left over from my leak test, but it's well below the cover seal area, so it won't be a problem. This Flex Epox has a very long cure time. 1.5 hours after mixing it, it's still very workable. Here you can see I have plenty of Flex Epox applied all the way around. I put a dab of glue on each screw in order to seal the screw hole and the area below the screw. These are number 6 truss head stainless steel screws. Okay, I've got all the screws tightened down, and I've got good glue squeeze out all the way around. I used acetone and paper towels to clean up the excess epoxy. After allowing the epoxy to cure for a couple days, I filled the tank all the way up. The tank no longer leaks, and I have removed the 19-gallon limitation decals.